I want to tell you all a story called Everglades. Everglades is a habitat right here in Florida where super cool animals live. And we can go there, we can see them. This story is written by Jean Craighead George, and there are beautiful paintings in the story by Wendell Miner. Everglades. This is the storyteller. He is telling all of these children in the canoe about this river of grass, the Everglades. It's a great story. Everyone should hear. The storyteller pulled the children under arching trees into a sunny water glade. He sat down and leaned toward them. I'm going to tell you a story, he said. It is not a story about a person or a mythical creature. It is not even a story about an animal. The children looked at each other and they waited. Wow, what is this story? It's a story about a river. He swung his arms in a wide circle. This river, the miraculous Everglades of Florida. My story will be different from any you have heard because this river is like no other river on earth. There is only one Everglades, and the children, they leaned forward to listen as the story began. Look at this, how beautiful this is. They call it a river of grass because in the Everglades, there's grass everywhere. It's called sawgrass. And there they are on the canoe listening to the storyteller. Look at that. You see the shell? And it's a storm. You can see the lightning and the sky is gray. It's a stormy night. First, there was sunshine on a blue-green sea. It was the age of seashells. The seashells formed a rock called limestone on the sea bottom. Over the eons, the sea lowered and the rock became land. The long Florida peninsula took shape in warm, sunny waters. Purple clouds, flashing with lightning, rolled and boomed above the land. Rain gushed from the storm clouds in summer. Sun bathed the land in winter. Moss grew, then ferns, then grass and trees. The rain eroded holes in the soft limestone and filled them with water. Florida glistened with green land and blue-green lakes. Florida, that's where we live. We live in Florida, and Florida's on the earth. Look at that land. Look at this grass on this land called the Everglades. One was Lake Okeechobee, round, deep, and as clear as window glass. Lake Okeechobee filled to its brim and spilled over. The spill became a river that seeped 100 miles down the peninsula from Lake Okeechobee to Florida Bay. It was 50 miles wide and only 6 inches deep in most places. This river did not chortle and splash. It did not crash over falls and race. It was slow. It was a slow-moving river that gleamed like quicksilver. We know it today as the Everglades. Into the shallow, warm river came tiny one-celled animals and plants. They lived and died and made gray-green soil on the bottom of the river. Sawgrass took root in the soil. This is the sawgrass. It's very sharp grass. If you walk around it, you could get cut. Look at this butterfly. This is a Florida zebra butterfly. Wow, look at that. That alligator on the sawgrass in the river that moves very slowly. And all the birds. And can you see that? Can you see this? It's a turtle in the river. The grass prospered. When the winds blew, the sawgrass clattered like a trillion swords. Each sword was edged with cutting spines. Of the larger animals, only the leathery alligator could walk unharmed among the terrible spears of the sawgrass. Yeah, the sawgrass doesn't cut the alligator because he has very hard skin. Around the stems of the grass scurried the young of insects and tiny crabs and snails. Little fish found these to be excellent eating. Turtles and alligators found the fish to be excellent eating too. Every wild thing ate well, and there was still an enormous abundance. That means there was a lot. To the abundance came the birds. Clouds of lacy white egrets made their home in the Everglades. Look how many birds. So alligators, fish, snails, turtles, birds make their home in the Everglades. There's lots of food. There's lots of space. It's a great place to be. Oh, look at this bird. He looks so soft and fuzzy. It's like you want to pet him. Wow, and these are spoonbills. I'm not sure what kind of bird he is. Let's see if we can find out. Every day, a blizzard of wood storks dropped into the grass and dined on the snails, crabs, bugs, and fish. A profusion of pink flamingos hunted in the shallow mud flats. Oh, these are pink flamingos. I thought they were spoonbills because if you look at their bills, that's what they look like. But they're pink flamingos in the Everglades where we live here in Florida? Huh. Wow. Hundreds of miles of rosette spoonbills vacuumed the ponds and shallows with their sieve-like bills. A myriad of little songbirds fluttered through the trees that grew on the islands in the river of grass. Oh, the songbirds. There's flamingos flying. They're pink, and these are pink. These are beautiful birds. Quantities of alligators roamed the grass and dug pools for their young. Into their pools came fish and turtles, herons and anhingas, and billions of frogs, snakes, and snails. So we got frogs, snakes, snails, crabs, fish, and birds, all living in this habitat called the Everglades. Look at that. There's a frog. Isn't that a cool looking frog? Wow. What is this animal? It's a big cat. What is he called? He lives in the Everglades? Let's see. A multitude of panthers, raccoon, deer, and otter came to the river. He's a panther, a Florida panther. He's very special. Oh my gosh, a plenitude of orchids bloomed and turned the island trees into colorful cathedral windows. Oh my gosh, look at this lizard. Oh my gosh, a plethora of lizards and anoles clambered over the orchids and 2,000 kinds of plants, including palms, vines, bushes, grasses, and trees. When all were in place, the Everglades was a living kaleidoscope of color and beauty. It glittered with orchids, grass, trees, birds, panthers, raccoons, snakes, mosquitoes, fish, all things large and small that make the earth beautiful. Oh my gosh, we have a beautiful earth and this beautiful river of grass called the Everglades. So you can see the alligator in the river, and this is the sawgrass. These are the birds. This is a flamingo, I know this for sure. Where are those spoonbills? I actually think these are the spoonbills right here. And is that a rainbow? Oh my gosh, how beautiful that is, a rainbow. You've got the birds flying there. So in the water you can find turtles and fish and crab and snails. Lots of things in the Everglades. There's beautiful plants. Check out these right here. These are some pretty cool flowers right here. But you can only find those in the Everglades. The Everglades in Florida. We can go. Oh my gosh, what a cool habitat. Look at that. sailboat. It's an old sailboat. What is that? Oh my goodness. The storyteller paused. The children looked around and they pondered, and the storyteller went on. So the children were like, wow, this place is so cool. They were thinking about all the things that the storyteller told them. When the Everglades was perfect, people who called themselves Calusas arrived. They lived gracefully on the fish and game and made tools out of seashells. The Spanish conquistadors arrived and the Calusa people disappeared. The conquistadors were afraid of the flesh-ripping grass and the roaring animals of the Everglades, and they moved on. Because remember, sawgrass is very spiny and it can cut you. And these people from this boat, they didn't like it. It was cutting them, so they left. They didn't like it there. North of Florida, European men pushed the Creek Indians out of the Carolinas, and some of them walked south until they came to the silvery Everglades. Ooh, they pulled deep. Oh, look at them. This is the Indians. Into the sawgrass, and they settled on the islands. They are the Seminole Indians. The Seminole Indians of Florida made the Everglades their home. That habitat, they made it their home. The storyteller paused. The children looked around. Where are the clouds of egrets? A child asked. The hunters got them by the tens of thousands. Only a few have survived. Where are the quantities of alligators? The hunters got them too. Where did the cathedral windows of orchids go? Do you know people went to the Everglades and picked these beautiful orchids and they took them? They took them out of the Everglades. People now are trying to get them back. And people go to the Everglades just to see them, not to take them, but just to see these beautiful orchids in the Everglades, some that can only be found there. Wow. And this is a boat. They are draining the Everglades, which was not a good thing because they wanted to dry the land and make it homes for people. But we have learned that we can't do that. We cannot drain the land of the Everglades because we need that habitat. It's such a special place for animals to live, and so many amazing things happen there that we don't do this anymore. We don't drain the Everglades. See, they wanted it for farming too, but we don't do that anymore. Let's see. Farmers, they tilled the land, and business people built towns and roads. So it is a sad story, said a fifth grader. Is this a sad story? I hope not. The storyteller said, they asked the storyteller, please tell us a happy story because we want to know that the Everglades is a safe habitat for the animals to live, and that it's not only farms, and that the land is not dry, and that the animals have their river. We want to know. So the storyteller, he picked up his pole and he quietly skimmed the dugout canoe across the water and down the trail in the sawgrass. And then he sat down and he told the children a story. A new story. He's telling them a new story. So this is the storyteller. He's a Seminole Indian, and he's telling the children a story. 5 children and a storyteller pulled into the Everglades. Eventually the children grew up and they took care of the earth. The clouds of birds returned to an abundance of fish in the water. The flowers tumbled into bloom. Quantities of alligators bellowed through the sawgrass again. A multitude of panthers, deer, raccoons, and otters cavorted on the islands. That's a much better story, said the children. Now pull us home quickly so we can grow up. So these children want to grow up to take care of the earth and keep the Everglades a river of grass for the animals to live, not to build houses there, not to have farms there, but to take care of it and keep it beautiful. And I don't believe he is a Seminole Indian. I think he could be a Miccosukee Indian there are different Indians that have lived in the Florida, on the Florida peninsula. And this is one of them. And he's telling these children such an important story about taking care of our earth. And our Everglades is a habitat on our earth that we need to take care of. I hope you liked the story, and I hope that you learned something about the Everglades, a habitat where animals live right here in Florida. Bye.